Good evening. We start tonight with new data from the Kern County Superintendent of Schools about how students are performing as they learn from home. The percentage of students failing their classes is on the rise across several school districts as educators struggle to come up with a way to help them. A representative from the Kern High School District says there is no clear path to combating education loss.
It's not only academics that are probably behind these D's and F's. There's a lot of life there too, and what families are experiencing within this environment, whether students have additional responsibilities at home, they're worried about the status of what their parents are in and trying to be successful. So there's just so much that is behind the grades.
Dr. Brenda Lewis with the Kern High School District went on to say that the district is working on helping students educationally and that efforts to repair some of the emotional and psychological toll on students are underway. On top of this, virtual counseling and tutoring are available to some students, but it's not clear yet what the impact those services are having on their well-being. Now let's take a closer look at the data. The research compares the percentage of D's and F's from fall 2019 to fall of 2020. When school districts across Kern County were in the midst of distance learning. More failing grades at Kern schools. 23ABC's Bayan Wayne looked more into the numbers and joins us live from the Kern County Superintendent's office in downtown Bakersfield with more. Good evening, Bayan.
Yeah, hey Alex, good evening to you. You're right, alarming would certainly be a way to describe this. Essentially, the data was compiled from 3 of the largest school districts in Kern County, which accounts for about 90,000 students here. And one thing was very clear in the results. Students are really struggling during distance learning.
It has been almost 1 year since Kern County schools transitioned from in-person instruction to distance learning for 194,000 K through 12 students.
And now research shows how distance learning has impacted the way some students are performing. According to Greg West, director of Kern Integrated Data System, grades have been falling.
Overall, between the 3 districts, we saw an increase of 14% DNFs as compared to last year, with the majority of those coming from students in that middle range, the B and C range, dropping down into the D and F range.
The research compared fall 2019 and fall 2020 grades at Kern High, Bakersfield City, and Panama Buena Vista Union school districts, which are the 3 largest in Kern County and account for about 90,000 students. At KHSD, 14% more 9th through 12th grade students received D's or F's. At BCSD, 17% more 6th through 8th graders received D's or F's. And at PBVUSD, 13% more 6th through 8th graders received D's or F's.
We were constantly battling everything from connectivity to engagement with students.
BCSD Deputy Superintendent Mark Luque says during a time of connecting digitally, it's been a disconnection that played a role in declining student performance.
It's that connection that our kids and our staff have not been able to reestablish during distance learning that we're trying to afford to our kids.
And that's why KHSD's Associate Superintendent of Instruction, Brenda Lewis, says faculty should focus on what's happening behind the scenes.
There's just so much that is behind the grades. And even though we're focusing on the academics and what the students have missed and what they need to learn and how we can provide interventions to mitigate some of that loss, it's also important that we focus in on those social emotional needs of our students.
And the Kern County Public Health Department announced today that K through 6 schools can open for in-person learning in Kern County. Now, to be clear, these are the schools that did not open when we were in the red tier of the state's reopening system back in fall. We're live in downtown tonight. Bayan Wang, 23ABC, connecting you.
All right, thank you, Bayan. And continuing our in-depth team coverage tonight with those that struggle in the digital classroom, districts and teachers are continuing to try and help students succeed on those online platforms. 23ABC's Kristen Varton talked to one Kern High School district teacher about what it looks like and the group of students who may be affected the most.
The Kern High School District understands that in addition to grades, distance learning has had a social and emotional impact on students, especially the socioeconomically disadvantaged, English language learners, and students with disabilities. The district says they've been working on staff and program development in the process of virtual learning, which includes being flexible with grading. Independence High School physical education teacher Christine Jacobson has been holding Zoom workout classes with this mindset given the circumstances.
You know, kids are always going to make excuses and try to work the system, but there are legitimate things like, you know, Wi-Fi issues or internet issues or download issues. So I think there's been a lot more leeway with, especially with timelines and deadlines.
Jacobson says that because kids are learning on Zoom all day, they're not moving as much. Her goal is to make sure students get physical activity for at least 30 minutes a day. Jacobson adds that as soon as teachers and students are permitted to go back to in-person instruction, she says she's ready. And on Wednesday morning on 23 ABC News, tune in to find out how parents of Kern High School District do feel about distance learning and its impact on grades. At the Kern High School District, Kristen Barton, 23 ABC News, connecting you.
At the Live Center now with more coverage on the impacts of students during the pandemic. We asked parents to tell us how their kids feel and how they're adapting during all of this learning distance. And here are some of their responses. One parent named Dominique says, "My 7-year-old is depressed. I can't get him to be excited about things that he used to. He's 7 and he shouldn't be feeling like this." Another person also who is having a totally different experience. Her name is Elisa. She says, "Mine are doing amazing. Straight A's for both this year. But now neither one of them want to go back." We would like to hear from you as well. So just make sure that you head over to our 23 ABC Facebook page where you can weigh in on the conversation. And we've seen the impact distance learning is having on education as the pandemic drags on. At the Board of Supervisors meeting today, officials say that there's some light at the end of the tunnel for students, parents, and teachers alike. Kern County Public Health Director Bryn Kerrigan announced that kindergarten through 6th grade can now return to school. This comes after Kern County's adjusted case rate fell roughly 18% and half the infections per 100,000 residents, which is below the state's metric for reopening. But high schools and junior highs can't open just yet. Kerrigan said per state requirements, grades 7 and up can return to in-person learning when Kern County enters the red tier.